You know that feeling, right? You open a brand new document and you're just staring at that blinking cursor. Or you're trying to pick a font and suddenly you're drowning in hundreds of options and none of them feel right. That blank page, that endless menu, it's supposed to be about freedom, but instead it just feels like you've hit a wall.
I'm pretty sure we've all been there. That feeling of being completely stuck, not because you have zero ideas, but because you have way too many. It's this strange paradox, and there's even a name for it in psychology called Hick's Law. It basically just says that the more choices you have, the longer it takes you to make a decision. So what's really going on here? Let's give this thing a name. It's called analysis paralysis. And this image of a maze? It's just perfect, isn't it? It completely captures that feeling of being lost in a puzzle of your own creation. But here's the most important thing to know right from the start. It's not just you. You are definitely not alone in this maze. So, what is actually happening inside our brains when we get stuck like this? Let's peel back the layers on this paralysis of choice.
Here it is, plain and simple. It's that endless loop of overthinking and second-guessing that just brings everything to a grinding halt. You get so wrapped up in the analysis part of the problem that it triggers the paralysis part, where you just run out of steam and end up doing, well, nothing at all.
And this is what's really going on under the surface. It's not just about having too many options. It's about fear. The fear of making the wrong choice, the fear of not being perfect, and, let's be honest, the fear of what other people might think. That's a huge weight to put on any decision, big or small.
And that fear of making the wrong choice, that leads us straight into our next big topic, the perfectionism trap. Because this, right here, is usually the real engine driving the whole problem.
This quote is so powerful because it's like someone recorded that little voice inside our heads. Psychologists call this a driver belief. It's that quiet but constant whisper telling us that our value is tied to being perfect and making everyone happy. I mean, talk about an impossible standard. It sets us up to fail before we even start.
So let's think about what this does to our brain. Your brain is kind of like a smartphone. Perfectionism, that's like having 50 apps open at once. It just drains your battery and makes everything sluggish. But embracing good enough, well, that's like closing all those apps you're not using. Suddenly, you've got all this processing power freed up for the stuff that actually matters, like creativity, learning, and, actually moving forward.
And here is the absolute best part. Letting go of perfection isn't just a mental relief. Your brain physically rewards you for it. It actually releases dopamine, that feel-good chemical, when you finish something. So by choosing progress, you're literally training your brain to enjoy getting things done. It creates this amazing positive cycle.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, analysis paralysis fueled by perfectionism. And we know our brains will literally give us a chemical reward for getting unstuck. So the big question is, how do we actually do it? How do we find our way out of the maze? Let's get into some real, concrete strategies.
Think about it. When you're totally lost in a maze of infinite options, what's the one thing you really need? A map. A structured process is your map. It gives you a clear path, turning that overwhelming freedom into small, manageable steps. And here's a fantastic picture of what one of those maps looks like. It's called design thinking. Notice the shape. It goes wide, then it gets narrow. That first part, the diverge phase, is where you go big. You brainstorm tons of ideas, no judgment allowed. But then you hit the converge phase, where it narrows down to a single point. That's where you start making choices and focusing in. It's a structure that lets you be wildly creative, but it also guarantees you'll actually make a decision at the end.
Here's another super practical method, iterative design. If that sounds complicated, don't worry. You already know exactly how it works. Just think about the apps on your phone and how they're constantly getting updated. That's iterative design. You break the big project into these 5 simple, repeatable steps. Define, ideate, prototype, test, and evaluate. You build a quick and dirty version, get some feedback, and then you make it a little bit better. The magic is in the cycle. It's not about being perfect on day 1, it's about learning and improving with every single loop.
All right, now for an idea that might sound completely backwards at first. What if the shortcut out of the maze wasn't more freedom, but less? What if the real answer is to embrace constraints?
I mean, wow. This quote just flips the whole script. The idea is, instead of seeing a limitation, like a tiny budget or a crazy deadline, as a roadblock, you treat it as a creative dare. You use that constraint to force yourself to throw out all the boring, obvious answers and come up with something no one has ever thought of before.
So all of this, it brings us to a really powerful shift in how we think. Let's call it the good enough revolution. It's all about trading the impossible goal of perfect for the incredible power of done.
This is just such simple, practical wisdom. If you wait for the perfect idea, the perfect script, the perfect moment, you're going to be waiting forever. The real goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Good enough isn't a compromise, it's the starting line.
And this isn't just some feel-good idea. The science actually backs this up. Research shows that people who prioritize progress over perfection don't just get more done, they're actually happier. They report satisfaction levels that are a whopping 30% higher. Think about that. Less stress, more results, and you're happier. It's a win-win-win.
So you see, this isn't just a one-time trick. It's a whole new way of working that actually builds on itself. The more you embrace good enough, the more of that dopamine reward your brain gets, and the easier it becomes to make the next decision, and the one after that. You're building real momentum. So I want to leave you with this one last question to think about. The next time you feel that paralysis creeping in, the next time you feel trapped by limitation or just overwhelmed by all the choices, ask yourself this. What if that thing that looks like a wall is actually a doorway to your most creative work ever?